by total coincidence, came on September the 13th, 2001. That was the day I arrived here to stay, crossing the Canada-U.S. border with a faxed copy of my O1 visa, riding my Honda Hawk 750cc motorcycle across the George Washington Bridge into New York City, with Lower Manhattan still in flames in the distance. At that point, I became a resident of America, but I wasn't an American. I certainly didn't feel American, and unlike many immigrants, I hadn't come here out of a desire to become an American. Canadians have always had a complicated relationship with our impossibly powerful neighbor. We're defensive and protective of our own identity, but at the same time, we can't help but gaze south in awe of what America has to offer. Whether you're a journalist, an actor, or a business person, America gives you a bigger stage, a bigger opportunity, a bigger everything. So when America called, I came. I worked first for CNN, then for Al Jazeera, and finally for MSNBC. I got married, raised a family, and my wife, Lori, and I made America our home. Even then, I didn't give the idea of American citizenship much thought. Because of my family's long and semi-nomadic history, I already had more citizenships than I knew what to do with. Since my family's journey began in India a century before, as a member of the Indian diaspora, I carry an Overseas Citizen of India card, which doesn't give you all the rights and privileges of being an Indian citizen, but it does act as a passport that allows you visa-free entry into the country. Then, fleeing from starvation and debt under the British Raj in their native land, my forebears landed in South Africa, where they lived and worked under that country's racist regime for decades, with my grandfather living with Mahatma Gandhi as the youngest pupil on his ashram, Tolstoy Farm. My father running a bakery that served the black townships of Pretoria, my uncle fighting apartheid in the streets alongside Nelson Mandela. When democracy finally arrived in that country in the 1990s, the full rights of citizenship they'd long been denied were finally granted to them, and through them, to me. Driven out of South Africa for their family's political activism, my parents then made their way to Kenya, the country where I was born, so naturally, I was able to claim citizenship there. Then, when life in Kenya proved to be politically untenable for them, they moved once again to Canada, where we were all welcomed with open arms and granted citizenship in fairly short order. For my parents, a passport was never a mere travel document. For them, a passport was freedom. It was security. It was evidence of their right to belong. I never needed a passport for that. When it came to my Canadian citizenship, I was secure enough and privileged enough to take it for granted. For me, at the time, having a passport was no different than having a driver's license. And with 4 passports in my desk drawer, I was already the Jason Bourne of cable news anchors. Going for American citizenship on top of all that felt unnecessary. Sometime around 2012, while I was still working at CNN, I popped into the office of my colleague Ashley Banfield for a quick chat. A fellow journalist and a fellow Canadian, Ashley and I had been good friends for years. So I was leaning in her doorway, and she was sitting at her desk, and somehow the subject of American citizenship came up. She asked me why I hadn't become one yet. I tossed off some dumb joke about not wanting to deal with jury duty, fully expecting her to take the comment in the lighthearted and offhanded manner that I intended, but that is not what happened. Her whole demeanor and expression changed. She lit into me, and I mean she gave me a hell of a lecture. Being a citizen of this country is not something to be taken lightly, she said. You live in this country. You benefit from its services and infrastructure, and if you're planning to stay here, that comes with rights and responsibilities. This is not a joking matter. And she was right. Citizenship in a democracy is something millions around the globe would die for. Yet I'd become so blasé about it that I'd started thinking about it in terms of how it would inconvenience me. But if you want to enjoy the benefits of living in a free society, jury duty is just that, a duty. In 2015, having left CNN for Al Jazeera,